point 1:30, and even the librarian, the director said it was wise to cancel, because when she emailed me, even on Wednesday, Elridge wasn't open, and she didn't know if it was gonna be open on Thursday, so sometimes you're better to be a little bit conservative when people are going out in bad weather.
These chairs. I know, they're awful. There should really be put something in the budget.
Well, we went to a dining the week before, and it was third storm, but luckily it was just the wind, so we all left about 8:30, I think, and so we were okay.
Yeah.
But I would have, if
feel
it
great.
was my house, I would have canceled it.
Working all the time.
See, every
Getting
weather
nowhere.
forecast I look at is different from
Yes.
Wednesday, so I'm not doing it.
All right, we can call this to order.
Let's do it.
Okay, we're gonna call the meeting to order, and as required by law, the town may audio or video record this meeting, and any person intending to either do this recording in the open session is required to inform the chair. We'll review the minutes from the last meeting.
Even though I hate this chair, I don't want to have Matt crawling over the whole thing.
He's on his way.
Yeah. Need a booster chair here.
I know.
Boosters. Hello.
Okay, any questions, recommendations for changes from last meeting?
I make a motion to accept the minutes of the last meeting.
I'll second.
The motion has passed to accept the minutes. And work session, if okay with the board, unless you have questions you want to discuss, we'd like to table the IA technology to Zone 2 for further meeting and go on about the sewer implementation.
Sure.
In agreement?
Mm-hmm.
Do I have to get a vote?
No,
Okay.
we can just continue it again.
Okay, and then let's start. Megan, you have an update?
I do. I've been to two wastewater support committee meetings since our last meeting, and one joint meeting between us and Harwich and Chatham for sewer design, as well as various meetings with town administrator and the going to be wastewater commissioner, Dan. He's now the water commissioner. He will take on the role of wastewater commissioner once things get in place. So over the last 6 weeks or so, I've had a chance to go through the regulations, the sewer regulations thoroughly, and find out where Board of Health's involvement is specifically, and work out some other details as far as who's permitting what, who's inspecting what, who's collecting fees, what will the fees be, that sort of stuff. So what I wanted to do with you guys is just quickly run through what the Board of Health's part in the sewer regulations are.
And are we going to be involved in this meeting, the town meeting at all? Or any of the training that, like whatever they're calling the session before the election?
I will be in that.
Oh, great.
I will be.
That's good, because I'm getting a ton of questions from people in town.
Whatever questions you have, you can either ask me or ask us as the town, and I can get them answers before any of those meetings.
I'm just telling them to go to the training.
Go to the
The training
training, or
sessions.
even go to the website.
Yeah.
Shoot us an email, get their question answered. Let us know what their question is ahead of time so we can answer it properly.
Okay.
But I believe there's going to be, I think it's April 19th, don't quote me on that, but I
Okay.
think it is a month before the town meeting. There's going to be a community meeting regarding the sewer system, the wastewater plan in general, and how it's going to be paid for, what are homeowners' responsibilities versus town responsibilities. So all of that is really on the selectmen, and they've done all the research and done the regulations. And in those regulations, it refers to the Board of Health for, first and foremost, issuing the order to connect. So the timeline for things, if you're not aware, you should really go to the website. There's a separate wastewater website within the town. So there's a town website for just wastewater, and it has all the documents that the wastewater committee and the town have compiled. All of the brochures are there, all the public information's there, the maps are there. There's even a list of street addresses that are in phase 2. So if you're curious, you can look up your address that way to see if you're in it or not.
I'm fortunate to be in it.
Fortunate.
I'll be like a good person for feedback, how it's going.
Yes, yes.
They're out there digging away.
Yeah,
I have some
Okay,
questions for you then.
Right, yeah, we'll
Yes.
figure it out.
Yeah.
I think they changed it though already, did they? No.
Sorry,
That's right.
Good to see you, Doctor.
Hello?
living in 3 houses.
Oh, boy.
We're just going over wastewater.
Okay.
Megan's giving us her update on the
Okay.
various meetings.
So, in May, the town's gonna be voting to implement phase 2, which is construct the sewer system in the East Harwich area and have that sewage go to the Chatham treatment plant. We've already paid Chatham millions of dollars to reserve space in their treatment plant. So we've already put millions of dollars towards this plan. It would be very irresponsible for the town not to go forward now. However, it's the town's option, townspeople, they can vote it down. If they vote it down, we get ordered by the EPA to do it a different way. So this should be the more cost-effective way to do it. So should it go through in May, we'll be looking at phase 2 implementation, which is going out to bid, hiring the contractors to put the pipes in the ground, finishing out the engineering. All goes well, the pipes should be in the ground, ready for the first house to hook up in 2021. So that's about 3 years away.
Can you remind me of the May date, the election?
The election's the 14th or 15th, but Maytown meeting is the 7th.
Okay.
That's a Monday. Right? I think it's a Monday. So it's important for townspeople to vote for this because we're going to be mandated to do wastewater cleanup. And this is the most cost-effective way that the town has come up with doing that. So once the pipes are in the ground, someone, probably the water commissioner, will have a list of licensed utility installers who are septic installers in a way, but they just install the line from the house to the sewer main. They'll have a permit mechanism and a permit fee all set up. We're thinking one permit between health and water, sewer, one to put the new line in, one to abandon the old system, but all on one piece of paper just to streamline it. Dan and I are coordinating the logistics of all that, but 3 years is plenty of time to figure all that out. We get a list from the contractors saying, okay, street A, B, C, D are ready to take sewage to Chatham. So it's not when the first sewer line goes in that people will hook up. It's when the sewer lines are connected in such a way that Chatham's ready, the treatment plant's ready to receive it. So there could be sewer lines in the street for years before a homeowner gets a letter that says, okay, you have 1 year to connect. The town's regulations say right now, 1 year to connect. You'll get your order from the Board of Health. You have a
And that
year to
order
connect.
date would start once the completion of the
Yes.
system's in.
Right, right.
For all 600 homes.
So you'd have
It'll
some
be
pretty.
phased,
Okay.
Oh, I see.
because they all won't be ready at once. So there's 620 plus properties that can connect, that will be connecting sometime between 2021 and
will-
2025.
Will they build out the whole system before
No.
they start to connect?
No,
No, as soon as they have capacity to connect,
they'll
they're gonna
keep going, yeah.
issue the letters.
They want people to start using it ASAP because that's how revenue is going to be created by water sewage use
And how are people gonna be notified?
from us. So we,
Directly, like email?
The letter would come from the
certified
Board of
mail.
Health.
Oh.
Yep, a
to
certified order letter
Oh,
will come from us.
Capacity is ready, it's time to connect.
It's
You
time.
have a year
You have
to
won the
complete
lottery
this.
and you are going to connect, yes,
Right.
yes. So, you'll get that letter and it could be June 1st of 2021 or it could be June 1st of 2025.
Now, the rates to connect are gonna vary by contractor?
Yes, they should be fairly competitive. I do have Chatham's list of licensed
Because
utility
the
installers.
house, every job's gonna be different. The house is in a different location on the lot, there's more of a run. Okay.
Right, farther back, lower, needs a pump,
So
doesn't
they'll
need a
have a
pump.
year to kind of shop the job,
They'll have
so
a
to
year.
speak,
Yep, they'll have a
and
year.
find a contractor.
Yes, yes. Some
Okay.
people are being proactive and already asking us who's on the list, who can I call, who can I
Right.
do? But that, there's still a few years to go.
Now, what if it's a financial hardship
Mm-hmm.
and they can't afford to connect?
So the
They
biggest,
call us up and say, we can't afford to connect.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to do?
the Board of Health can grant extensions. That's written in the sewer regulations. It says unusual and substantial hardships. And that's up to you all to decide what is an unusual or substantial
So
hardship.
everybody that doesn't want to connect, that wants to apply for a hardship, will have to vet at this board
Yes,
as of now.
yeah.
yes.
Okay.
And they have to
Check.
prove financially that they're challenged?
That is my recommendation. I wouldn't
Mm.
say, if someone comes and says, I just can't afford it, you'll have to decide, well, have you gotten a quote?
Well, at
How
the
much is it going to
staff level,
cost?
they would have an application, I assume,
There, we can create
To-
one, yeah.
get documentation from them
Mm-hmm.
that they qualify before they could reach this level.
Yes, there will be some kind of a checklist that has property address, how old your existing system is, what your hardship is, what the quote is you've received.
And what about something like when you go to the food pantry, some financial documentation?
Income and things like that.
Yeah, so basically, it's really equitable. I'm not saying in a negative way, but so it's really equitable that people are objectively being evaluated rather than just saying, oh, like my case, oh, I'm retired, so
Mhm.
therefore,
Fixed income,
you should consider me. I think unless you know what my assets, you don't need to know all my assets, but I think there needs to be something so that the other folks aren't overburdened by this.
Well, that's
the
what I'm
town.
talking about.
Yeah, right, yeah.
A needs base.
Yes.
Kind of a tier, first gate to get through,
Yeah.
to let people
Yeah.
know that it's a challenge to get the waiver. It's not
Yes.
an automatic, you have to
Right.
show financial you have to show the hardship
And it's
and
a,
documentation, because maybe that would be solved at the staff level and not have to come to us.
it could be, yeah, if we
Well,
can do something like that.
Is the board the only ones that can?
Mhm. The
Okay,
board is
then
the only one who
would
can
come to
grant
us.
an extension.
But they
Right, but I mean, we
yeah.
could have it.
We
run-
could weed the applications out by
Someone
almost
has-
denying some in the beginning.
Someone has no money and can't afford it and is seeking sources
Mhm.
from one of the many resources that are, I think that's what we need to be kind of
Yeah.
concerned about, that we have a direction to point them to,
Mhm.
that they could, have we vetted that yet? Is there any
Yes,
help for
they're-
people who don't have any money to do it?
The Barnstable County, the sewage loan program, which you can get for a Title V system or sewer connection,
Oh, good.
exists. They will give you a low interest rate. They hardly ever deny people, and it's a low interest rate that can go for 20 years.
Well, that's
Perfect.
good.
So if you think
And
of,
if
So
you have
maybe
one
if-
already with the sewer, with the septic system alone, then
You can
you said that
still-
you can have 2 loans.
Oh, that's good.
right, so
Right,
if
if
10
you
years
already got your
ago.
if you're already still paying off your Title
Mhm.
V system you just bought,
You
you're
can-
still,
You can get
you
another.
can still be lucky enough to get another
So
loan.
that's good, 'cause so someone is vetting them, if they're getting a loan, they're being vetted, rather, the other thing I was thinking, I was having some kind of, like you're saying, checkoff list, and whatever it would be, let's say 5 out of 8 points, bingo, you're in. If you only have 2, then that might be something that, and maybe your staff can look at that level, where if they have very little need, but they're checking off an application, it could be the rest of the board. To go through 600 applications, I think, is quite heavy duty.
Well, just remember, all 600 aren't going to be
So 5
requesting
years.
a waiver or
waiver,
variance.
Mm.
And as long as people understand that,
You figure 20% might ask for a
the town,
waiver.
for reference, the town of Chatham's been doing this for 7 years now, and they have granted approximately 75 waivers.
Oh, okay,
So it's not good, hopefully it's not going to be an
overwhelming.
overwhelming number.
yeah.
Yeah, as long as we have a smooth transition to get them to a guaranteed source of,
And
Oh,
people
yeah.
need to know that it's not a waiver to do it, period. You still have to do it. You still have to connect, but we may give you 3 years instead of 1 year, or 5 years instead of 1 year. So,
yeah.
You're talking primarily about the hookup fee or the usage fee?
hookup fee,
Okay, will there be any hardships for the usage fee?
I don't know. That's gonna be through the Water and Sewer Commission.
Okay, so we're not...
Those would probably be handled through the assessor's office like abatements
Okay.
are now.
All right.
Yeah,
So it's strictly the
Because that
hookup
bill's
fee.
coming out of the water department.
right. The
Yeah,
water
so if they
department's
didn't-
generating that.
They would call the water department to see what the
Okay.
avenue is.
Mhm. Right, so they would ask for an abatement.
So I have a question totally unrelated to this immediate question, but has there been any, since, I think our last meeting, we were, I believe, I recall that there's a very limited number of businesses, companies, what do you call it? Not evacuation, what's the right term? Companies that can do the work on the roads before we get to the phase where people are gonna hook up, that are gonna actually do the sewerage work. Has there been the thought to try to, maybe it's too soon, but how could we try to get other companies besides the 2 to 3 that exist?
A project of this size goes out to bid through the state bidding process.
Oh, okay,
So the town is required to take the lowest bidder. And they're talking about splitting it up into 2 phases within the phase to get 2 companies to do it at the same
that's good.
time, or to get more competitive bids. So there is a mechanism to get a low bid price.
I wasn't so even, believe it or not, concerned so much about the amount of money, which of course I am concerned about, but more that, I think in that discussion that we had, it was that Chatham and Harwich are gonna be competing at the same time for the companies to do the road work, to get the sewer lines in, and that, knowing already that there's a limited number of companies to do the work, and you got the 2 towns competing,
Yeah.
it did concern me, thinking about it, how we could,
Yeah, the selectmen have thought about that.
yeah.
And-
Outside the
and-
realm of what we're dealing with. Really.
Well, really, but, it does impact our workload on the continuum of that, once that's solved. Anyway, okay, well, thank you, and then we can go to the training that,
Well, the training's more of
I'll
a,
learn the website, look at,
the website's full of information, but the seminar, which is gonna be in April,
what's what they're called,
it's a seminar, will answer questions from the engineering company, from the town, the selectmen, the town administrator, and
Oh,
Board of
good,
Health. All of
good.
us will be
And that'll
there.
be recorded.
It will be recorded.
Oh, good,
It'll be in Florida.
good.
And one of the questions that the wastewater support committee, who meets twice during the weekday every month and once an evening every month, they wanted a letter to go out to all of the people that are going to be within the Phase 2 sewer system to alert them that a sewer system is being proposed, because apparently there are many homeowners and residents within this upcoming sewer area that had no idea that a sewer system was proposed. So the letter is going to be fairly general, saying, go to this website, make this phone call.
From the committee.
It's from the committee,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So they have to do their promotion work.
Yes, yes. The wastewater support committee is a group of people that are really a go-between the community and the selectmen, getting questions answered,
Yeah.
and trying to do more PR about why we're doing it and why it's important.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Other than the letter, do we have any other ties to it?
Other
the
than me
demand?
going to them?
The demand
Yeah.
that we face.
We have offered and have started, not so much for the wastewater support committee, but for the wastewater project in general, started scanning files that are within this area for a septic system location. So people can call or email and we can send it to them electronically rather than having people come in for their location. We're trying to.
That's excellent, a lot of work.
It is.
Thank you.
We're not all that far away, but
When do we kind of go to a transition where they're not required to meet install an expensive Title V system because we're around the corner? Like, have we determined that
that
junction of the problem?
that is more outreach, I think, right now to realtors and engineers who are designing or having things inspected at this point, where we can tell them after May, when everything's voted and going through forward, when we have a set timeline, we can have people come in now and ask us for an extension, saying my system is a cesspool.
My system has failed, or I have a real estate transfer.
Do I have
a
to?
bridge?
Yes, which is something that I think is a fair question and something that
It's
I
gonna
would
come up.
encourage you to issue or allow extensions or ways to have a system limp along until they can
Right, so we'll have to
connect.
put some effort into structuring how to handle that on a smooth
Yeah,
basis.
and again, I think that is a more of a case-by-case basis, because a septic system that's failed because it's in a wetland or failed because it's in the groundwater versus a system that's just hydraulically failed where it's been full at one point, can that system be pumped out regularly over the next 3 years versus do you want that cesspool still operating in the wetland? So I don't think you can just say, if you have a failed system, we're gonna give you 3 years. I think it depends on why it's failed.
I see.
Mm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Good
Yeah.
point.
So I think each case is going to need to come before you, but people
Right, 'cause
need to know there's
no-
options.
No one's gonna willingly put in a system.
As they
and-
should,
and
they
they
should
shouldn't
not,
have to.
right. They shouldn't spend $10,000-15,000 now
If we can get them through.
and in 5 years have to say, okay, but now you
Right.
have to connect. That's just, doesn't make sense, so.
And we'll have an idea of who these folks are based on the map of who they're gonna do first. They've already
Yes.
decided
They've already
who's on the
decided.
list. So any transactions that.
I can pass these out now. You've gotten them before, but the bright orangey red is phase 2, which is what's going on next.
These look like placemats.
Yes, use them as places.
Yes.
That might be good marketing for the,
And this isn't the final map. There may be some parcels that have been added or deleted based on engineering work. But it's pretty much this
Yeah.
area. They will have a new map by the end of the month, and it'll be on their website. So if you start getting questions about what do I do, what can I do because of this or that situation, the answer's ask for a waiver, ask for an extension, ask for relief. There isn't going to be a set black and white policy.
right.
Something that is in your packets is Town of Chatham sewer regulations. So Chatham has sewer regulations and Chatham has Board of Health sewer connection regulations. 2 different things. I don't know if you guys want a separate sewer connection regulation that outlines things that we've talked about. Something that Chatham did, which I do think is a good idea, but I don't know if you necessarily need a regulation for it. is they have a section about if you have an alternative septic system. So if you have a IA technology system that's removing nitrogen already,
Right,
and it's less than 10 years old,
yeah.
they let you add on a certain amount of years based on how old that system is. So for instance,
What
if,
page are you on your notes?
So it's not in that packet.
oh, this,
Oh.
It's in this
So they have two sets of regulations. What's the benefit of having two sets, do you think?
the benefit is really
You find yours?
to outline things a little clearer, I think, because the
Does it give you more
overall,
flexibility having the two sets, do you think?
no, gives you less flexibility,
I see.
yeah.
Any
think if
pros
you
and
leave it-
cons?
I think if you leave it as everything needs to come before you, you're gonna see more, but you're also going to be able to see each thing individually rather than have a blanket policy.
Yeah. Yeah, because there needs to be some flexibility in the thing, so people aren't out in the cold, I think.
I think so too. But I just wanted to bring it to your attention. so
Even
you
though it's
can-
more work for us,
Yeah,
I think
but it's staged, thank God.
there's a lot of money at stake for people.
Yeah.
It is.
That's the main question I'm getting. I would say I've had at least 10 or 15 people ask me questions, because I know I'm on the Board of Health, and the biggest concern is about money, and how much it is totally, because there's a range, and then how come people who aren't getting it are paying money. And so I tried to use the discussion of,
Are you
that
able
we
to
have
answer those, or
I
do you-
thought so, yeah.
Okay.
That, we're all taxpayers, we're all in the town together, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
But, yeah, people are concerned about the personal financial burden
Sure.
as they see it.
Well, that's what we have the town meeting for.
That's great, no, that's what,
And,
Well, you're
and
all
they're
about
trying
it.
to do a lot of education beforehand in this April meeting. So,
the fact that there are loans and that is gonna be very helpful, I think.
yes, there are loans, just like if your system were to fail tomorrow, you'd be able to qualify for a county loan at that point.
Yeah, that's good.
It's just about 7.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions before we go on? Okay. New business, I'm going to open the hearing for Wilder Way. Megan, you want to discuss them?
We have a preliminary 8-lot subdivision prepared by Eastwood Homes Business Trust for Wilder Way, formerly 1522 and 1546 Orleans Road.
Good evening.
How are you?
David Clark, Clark Engineering, on behalf of Eastwood Companies. We've filed as Megan said, an 8-lot subdivision off of Route 39 in East Harwich. The property is within the Pleasant Bay watershed, so pursuant to your regulations, we are required to put in a shared system with IA technology. All the lots will be 40,000 square feet under Title V. Because we're in the water resource district, would be limited to 1 bedroom per 10,000 square feet or 4 bedrooms per lot. We had originally filed this, I think, a year ago about this time, when it was a 6-lot or a 5-lot subdivision then, and I did design a shared system for that proposal, and we were basically collecting the wastewater in the street and bringing it down towards Route 39, where we would have a shared system. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about tonight is that this area of Harwich is at the top of the list for being sewered. And so I wanted to discuss with you the options for putting in a partial Title V system until we're ready to hook up to the sewer. The idea is that we anticipate it to be a 6 to 7 year build out for these lots, and so in the first phase of the project, we would voluntarily limit construction to just 4 houses while we wait for the sewer, and put in a smaller Title V system for those 4 houses, and ask the board to waive the requirement for treatment. The idea being that certainly at build-out, we would be expected to treat all 9 lots. But since we're going to voluntarily restrict construction to just 4 houses until such time as the property is connected to the sewer, we feel that it's an equal benefit in that we're restricted to a total of 16 bedrooms as opposed to 9 times 4.
So you're going to do one traditional Title V 16-bedroom system to carry the 4 houses.
Yes. Either way, we own the collection system in that if the town doesn't go forward with the sewer project in May, we would design and construct a 50 or so bedroom septic system with IA technology. That would require a...
Leaving this system in place you're talking about for the rest of the lots?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you do an IA for the rest of the lots?
Well, that's if the sewer doesn't go through
Right.
in May. We would design a full Title V system for the anticipated build-out. And what I was getting at is whether it's on sewer or a shared system, we have to put a collection system in the road. So rather than go ahead and...
So you'd abandon the Title V system?
5 system.
And in its place, in the same area, put in the IO system?
No. We would pipe all the wastewater towards the Route 39 end of the subdivision, where we would have a shared system for the first 4 houses.
Right.
If the sewer doesn't pass in May, well, this is not going to get built till, this is just the preliminary. So, but anyways, but that would be for the first 4 houses. We'd have a shared septic system, but without the IA, for a maximum of 16 bedrooms. The reason we limit it to that is that we want to be under 2,000 gallons a day, so that we don't have to pressure dose the septic system, because that, for a system this size, it's an extra $10,000 to $15,000. And knowing that the sewer is 3 years away, it's just another expense we don't think we need to incur. But overall, the idea is that the nutrient load for 4 4-bedroom houses without IA technology is going to be less than 9 4-bedroom houses with IA technology. So at the end of the day, no more nitrogen is going into the ground and towards Pleasant Bay. So again, once the pipe, once the town gets the okay from the state to start allowing hookups, we would disconnect from the septic system, and at that point we would be less than 20 feet away from the municipal sewer, and it would be an easy connection, because the whole collection system would be designed to the sewer standards anyway. So we would be putting in an 8-inch pipe in the road with 4-foot inside diameter manhole. So it would be a traditional wastewater collection system as if it was for sewer. But for the first 3 years, it would be diverted to an on-site system, and then hopefully connected to the municipal sewer 3 years from now.
Got it. Thank you.
when we filed the definitive, we would, at that point, formally ask for the waiver or variance. Meg and I still have to discuss which way we want to go, how to officially ask for it. But you would have the full details of a 16-bedroom septic design at that point. And obviously, the collection system and the road will be fully designed, because that'll be part of the planning board approval as far as the infrastructure that's going in the subdivision road. And also, at the definitive hearing, we would also present the environmental impact report that's required, because we are in the Water Resource Protection District and the watershed to Pleasant Bay.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Any questions?
Any comments from the audience? No? Okay. Close the meeting. Any further questions? Discussion from the board?
You have people sign in.
Oh, has everybody signed in? And there's a sign-up sheet there. Please.
I have no question.
So just ask you one more
Mhm.
question. I think you already addressed this. Once the town sewer goes in, then these 4 homes will be connected directly up to that?
Yes. And it,
Okay, I thought, okay,
yes.
thank you.
Okay. Somebody want to make a motion?
We have a
Oh, I'm
recommendation.
sorry, sorry, Megan.
At this point, it's a preliminary subdivision plan. It's not the environmental impact review, so we don't need to address all of those sewering, how many bedrooms, sort of things. So at this point, I recommend that you approve the preliminary subdivision plan with the conditions that the sewer lines are stubbed out the front of the buildings, town water is served on all properties, no variances to Title V will be allowed, and further review of Regulation 1.211 when the time comes.
Now it's.
You can remember all that. I'll make a motion that we accept this report and the recommendations of the Director of Public Health on all the variances, of which I probably only remember one.
Jenny variance.
But if you could read those to Jen, or Jen would have them, I guess, that would be, okay, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No?
Can someone second that?
Second that? Oh, a second.
I'll second. Now we vote.
All those in favor?
All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
All those
Aye.
in favor?
Right,
Motion
Unanimous.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
okay.
Good luck. Interesting. Case in point.
Case in point.
I was
And that,
wondering if,
that will also, we have some work to do on our regulations, because our regulations refer back to the water recharge area, Pleasant Bay area watershed, needing alternative technology, which now they won't. So we have to revise some
Interesting, yeah.
regulations.
Yeah, that whole area is going to be developed now, and everyone's going to need a bridge like this, so get ready.
Mhm.
That's good.
I was wondering if it's possible, if someone in the next year has a system that is failing and there's no recourse but to put in a Title V system, would it be possible to install with a valve both the sewer hookup and the Title V system at the same time? In other words, all you'd have to do when you're hooking up to the sewer is disconnect the Title V system, and then,
I think they need to remove the old
Yeah.
system.
They have to.
well, you have to
physically-
destroy it. I mean, but as far as the hookup is concerned, it's already done. All they would have to do is connect it to the sewer
Ah,
line.
Possibly.
It might save them money, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, both the Title V as well as the sewer connection need to be engineered, so the engineer could do something like that.
At the time you put in the Title V.
I don't see why
That's what I
not.
was wondering, yeah, they can do that.
I don't see why not.
Good.
Although, they have to coordinate with where the stub's coming in
Yeah,
from the new sewer main.
yeah.
So it has to be at the right elevation.
Yeah.
It might be a little difficult, but if an engineer can do that, they,
Sure. Well, if the house is above the sewer line, then it's going to be gravity feed, right? And so that's going to be the case whether they put in the Title V or not, right?
possibly, yeah. Well,
Possibly.
it's hard to tell without knowing the elevation of the sewer line in the street,
Okay.
yeah. But if the engineer knows, if they have that information.
But I think it would be helpful if people were to know that that's an option.
Mhm.
If somehow we could,
Yeah,
if it comes to that, you know, that
Okay.
we could say you can always do it both and then you don't have to pay for the hookup later.
Maybe that could be in the training,
yeah, maybe we can, I'll have to ask the
I mean,
engineers
excuse
that.
me,
Okay.
I'll ask the
the
engineers.
seminar, excuse me. Keep on saying training.
The next item on the agenda is a hearing for Dr. Cavity's Candy Shack, 560, it's just 560A, Route 28, Harwich Port, to consider variances from the Food Code, 1999 Federal Food Code, Chapter 4-301.12, relief requested from the requirement of a 3-bay sink, alternate warewashing procedures proposed. 2, Chapter 5-203.13, relief requested from the requirement of a separate hand washing sink, alternative hand washing location proposed. 3, Chapter 6-301.1, relief requested from the requirement of a service sink, alternate service sink procedure proposed.
I now open the meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I have mine. Is
Yeah,
it this one?
we have those,
Yeah,
thank you.
there's also, do you have the tape in the back there? Yeah.
No. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Megan, do you have,
I have the first page, but not the second. Thank you.
George Tubbs.
You're up.
good evening, my name is Peter Hurst, and I am here this evening seeking 3 variances for Dr. Cavity's Candy Shack, which is located in Route 28 in Harwich Port. I think, Megan, you already read these.
I did.
Okay. And, you know, it states below how I would be dealing with these issues. I think one is, would be washing the floors daily with a bleach water solution. I believe that is in reference to variance number 1. And then on number 2, there's, I believe, I have, there's one hand washing facility, there's one in the bathroom. And I don't have a service sink to speak of. And then we talk about, I think the issue was, one of the issues was the containers in the candy store. And I've come to, for the past 3 years, what I've done is the containers have been sanitized at the hot stove. And this year I have an agreement with the Mad Minnow, which is 3 buildings down on the same side of the street, where we'll be able to sterilize the containers whenever need be. And it shows, in order to transporting the containers, I provided you with that sheet that I'm purchasing 4 of these Sterilite containers, and they will hold 7 of the 1-gallon glass candy containers. So 2 of those will be used for transporting the ones that have to be sterilized. I will also have on premise 14 containers that have previously been sterilized. And then what I intend to do is Okay, let's see here. And then to sterilize, yeah, the Sterilite, I'm going to use, just wipe those down on a daily basis, when used, with sterilized pads. And what we used this past year, which worked out really well for the candy containers, is that everyone put on plastic gloves, and that worked out extremely well. You had a lot less spillage, on the floor. The kids would prefer to sort of go in and dig the candy out and put it in their bag, as opposed to the problem with the scoops was it would get out and stuff would fall down. The kids would, pick it up. They'd either put them back in the bag, or they'd put them back in the containers. So with the gloves has really resolved that problem for sure. Let's see. That's it.
Okay. Any questions from the audience? I close the hearing. Board discussion?
No, not yet. I have a question.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, no,
no, that's
she's
okay.
bored, that's why I
Yeah.
put my hand up. Okay, so you can take advantage of my expertise in public health. I worked for the Department of Public Health for 29 years. And so I have just a few questions really about guaranteeing the sanitation of the food. So basically, I just have 3 questions
Sure.
that appreciate your help. Is the candy that you now have wrapped, when you talk about the kids putting their hand in, is all the individual candies wrapped?
As it states in here, I have 24 containers with wrapped candy and 52 containers with unwrapped candy.
And who's allowed to put their hand in, or the gloved hand or not, into the
Anyone
unwrapped?
that's in there, if they have a glove, one of the gloves on, they can put their hand into the container,
Oh.
take the candy out, and put it in the bag.
So that would be your staff or the people buying the candy?
Yes.
Okay. And then, is there any system in place to know about the expiration date of the candy that you have on the premises? So
Yes.
is that written up or printed up?
We
or-
have a booklet
Oh.
that's displayed on the counter
Uh-huh.
with the candies that we have, expiration dates, and also, ingredients.
And somebody on your staff, I don't know if it's you, I'm not familiar with, I mean, I know where your store is.
Yes.
But is there some kind of protocol for yourself or the staff that's regularly checked, so that with the items that are expired are removed?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And, there's such a turnover in regard to that product that, usually there was no problem for sure this year as far as, expiration on product.
Because the candy was popular, is what
Because
you're saying.
just a big turnover in regard to that.
Okay, so basically my 2 biggest questions here are, with my background being a registered
Sure.
dietitian and working for the public health, is that I'm wondering what kind of a regular schedule you have for sterilizing your equipment, especially the jars. And then I guess it does concern me that there's only 1 sink available for your staff to clean their hands. And is that the same sink that the public uses?
Well, the public doesn't use that sink.
So it's just your
It's just
staff?
for employees, yeah, just there's a sign that says for employees only.
Okay, so then basically, back to the frequency of sterilization. I know that, what system do you have in place for sterilizing the frequency and how that's checked, like in your store and then at Mad Minnow, to make sure that adequate temperature and soap in handling of the jars is used so that there's less likely chance of contamination?
In regard to the Mad Minnow, I mean, I'd be using the same dishwasher that they use to sterilize all of their,
Oh,
silverware and plates, et cetera.
oh, so you actually are allowed to use, so you'd use that machine?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I thought maybe this is going to be handled by a lot of people.
No,
Okay.
no. We go in, there's 2 of us that Kaylee Ellis is the girl who's, she's worked for me for a long time, and she's actually the one, she's at UMass right now, but she does, she's in charge of a lot of these things, and she, I have the utmost confidence in what she does. I mean, for instance, we'll start off the year with all the containers will be sterilized. And at the end of the day, she checks everything out. If there's something that she thinks that has to be cleaned out, even if there's candy in it, she will take that candy and put it into, there's the sanitized, the Sterilite container will also have 14 sterilized gallon containers for the candy. So if she deems it necessary to, if one of the containers she thinks is dirty, she'll take the candy from that, put it into a sterilized
Transfer it.
container.
So basically, it's being checked once a day?
Oh, it's checked more than that, yeah.
Okay. Okay, that sounds,
Um,
thank
listen,
you.
Sorry. Can you walk me through your hand washing procedure and how you're going to set up rules for hand washing?
You mean for the employees?
Yeah.
Well, there's a sink there that they go in, there's a container of, it's, sanitized soap. They use that. They have towels, paper towels that they use to dry their hands.
And do you have a protocol for when they wash their hands and how frequently?
They wash them, Kaylee has stressed this because it's very important, that they be washed on a very frequent basis.
How often is that?
I would say that would be, if someone's working a 4-hour shift, I would imagine they'd probably wash their hands anywhere between 6 and 10 times.
Do you have any written instructions for them?
Yes.
What does it say?
I don't have them with me.
I mean,
It's
what
just
is
that-
your concept of rules for hand
My
washing?
concept in regard to that is that they should be washed regularly, whether that's 3 times in the course of a shift or 15 times in the course of a shift. It's if a person is handling anything, then that person is to go in the bathroom, wash their hands, sterilize their hands, and come back out. But also remember that the employees as well are wearing the gloves, so if they have to go in and get anything out of the containers or pick up any of the other, so they'll have the gloves on at all times.
Well, taking for example what's been happening in hospitals lately, hand washing has been, the lack of hand washing has been the major source of patient infections gotten in the hospital. And all the sterilization of all the containers and things like that fades into insignificance when it comes to human hands touching things. And although surgeons wear gloves, they also have to scrub for 15 minutes before they put on the gloves, because gloves break. And we know, frankly, that people use the gloves to pick things up that are not sterile when they think nobody's looking. Or if they drop something on the floor, and they say, oh, well, that's been cleaned, they'll go down and pick it up with the gloves. So the hand washing is more than just a nuisance. It's absolutely critical to preventing foodborne illness. That's why I'm pushing it so hard.
Sure. No, I understand.
And I would
Colin.
strongly advise that you have a written protocol for people when they are washing their hands, how often they're washing their hands, and under what circumstances they should wash their hands.
Yeah. I believe there's a really good, easy instructions on that on the Mass Department of Public Health's website. And one of the really simple little tools is that they have people, I mean, this sounds kind of corny, but this is, they sing, while they begin to wash their hands, they sing happy birthday. And so the length of time it takes you to sing happy birthday is the length of time that you should be covering your whole hand up to your wrists and your nails, etc. So that just gives you the length of time, to your point. And people, that's an easy thing, to sing happy birthday,
Right.
and then they know, okay, that I need to be more soap or, the length of water and that kind of thing. So that, yeah, I might, and maybe I can even try to help you find that myself. But it is something really easy. But I think I totally agree with your point, and that's why I brought up most of my points, is that I'm very concerned about the sterilization and the fact that I would think that the majority of people that are buying your product are kids. and we really want to make sure we're protecting the kids of the town.
Absolutely. And I mean, I will certainly have something, you know, I have a protocol now, but if you'd like to see that, I can bring it up to the
Make sure it includes a fingernail brush.
fingernail brush.
Absolutely. And, you know, one of the handy things that you can do to teach people how to wash their hands, and I did this when I was in medical school, it's a really good test. You cover your hands with lamp black.
With
You
what?
put on- Cover your hands with lamp black or any other black substance, washable substance. Put on a blindfold, and then say, go wash your hands and wash all the lamp black off. And not one of us medical students got it all off. And we knew that we were being looked at. So it's very important to have a good hand washing protocol anytime you're dealing with either human flesh or food. And if you have a written protocol, then you can say to people when they don't do it, well, it's written right here. Whereas if you just say you ought to do it often, you know how often gets a little bit diluted after if you've been doing it for a few months.
What's your protocol for people taking money and hand washing?
Anytime anyone, if there's, what we have, I don't know if you've been in the store, but it's divided. There's a person who is in the front of the store by the cash register. That person, I have either 2 or 3 people working there at all times. So the person handling the money does not deal with any of the food or anything at all.
And they are,
Just the
and
money.
are they instructed to wash their hands?
They have to wash their hands just like everyone else, probably even more so than
Because washing, if you don't wash your hands before putting the gloves on, it's...
correct, correct.
Okay.
And another helpful group is the Barnstable Extension Service, and they run the, I'm trying to think of the formal name, but it's basically food safety program, and I believe that's for free. So basically, at the start of your season, particularly summer, you could probably have them come right in,
Food
or you could
safety.
use the community
That's a good idea.
center and get trained on that, your new help.
So that's the, okay.
Barnstable Extension
Extension
Service.
Service Food Safety Program,
Yep.
right? So in other words, I could get in touch with them, they could come down and do what has to be done?
Yep, make
Okay,
arrangements, and
that's
if it's not them, I know they do it because, I won't get into that story, but they can refer somebody locally in town, probably, that can come and do it for
Okay,
you.
that's really good, I like that.
And regarding the frequency, I would suggest that if you wash your hands once very thoroughly at the beginning of a shift, and then maybe a couple of times during the shift thoroughly, that's a lot better than washing it sloppily 15 times.
Okay,
If I could make a clarification, kids and other patrons are putting the gloves on to get the candy out of the jars. I don't believe having the children or the patrons go to wash their hands before putting on the gloves is something you're proposing.
no,
No.
So what, to your point, having dirty hands and putting on clean gloves negates the gloves. So I think there might need to be a policy or something such as someone with clean hands is putting the gloves on the kids or something. Because if you've got a child or an adult putting on the gloves, they're gonna contaminate the outsides of the gloves. So unless they're washing their hands first, which really can't happen with the size of the septic system, there needs to
What
be
about
something.
those, that in the hospital we use the sanitizer pump,
Mhm.
where,
okay. In other words, someone who comes in, it could be in the side of the store, you
Yeah.
put your hands underneath that?
yeah,
That's a good idea, okay.
Before you put the gloves on, you have to
Yeah.
That would be
because
sanitize.
that's
okay for the-
considered,
For the customers to do it,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
But
Just
not
needed
the-
to
not the
clarify
staff.
that.
Not the staff, so that's sanitized so they can come in, because you walk in and there's a front area, and then you go through the door, and that's
and it
basically
would,
where you
you
get.
would have to have a sign saying you must use this
Right.
before.
Yes.
And that would be
touching
very
anything.
easy to do, because when you
Yeah.
come in, there's an area that you can, it's set up perfectly for something
Right
like that.
near the gloves, right
Right.
before you put the gloves on, you've got to
Right.
sanitize.
Corral, whatever it's called.
Purell, yeah.
Sanitizer, okay.
Yeah, that's a good plan. I like that.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, I come up with good things.
That's a good idea. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
I have one other question about the amount of containers. You had started off with 10 of the, I might be wrong, of the unwrapped candy, 10 jars?
No, I have 52 with the unwrapped
Right, but
candy.
when you first started,
First started,
did you always have 52 jars?
I
Since
might
you
have,
opened?
no. I had quite a few. I don't know exactly how many I had when I had the candy store in the back, but there were a lot. And I would say it's probably grown by about 15% as far as the containers go. And, we never really had an issue, sanitizing those containers, and it was done on a regular basis, and it worked out well.
Okay.
It only takes once, so that you're really protecting yourself big time. It only takes one food poisoning
Right.
and some enthusiastic family to sue you, and you're out of business. So there's a lot of wonderful reasons that you look into
No, I
these
appreciate this very much.
trainings
I
and
appreciate this very
cleaning and
much.
all
I mean,
that. Yep.
all these suggestions have been, wonderful, and I will absolutely. I mean, that sanitizer is a great idea. The idea of, thoroughly washing your hands. I like that idea of, putting something black on it blindfold, just so the kids, the people who work there, understand the importance of, washing your hands. No, those things are all very constructive and certainly will help out immensely. The fingernail brush, I mean, that's great. Singing happy birthday, I mean, all these things are wonderful.
And then the Board of Health, your inspectors go in how many times a year and inspect similar stores or this store?
Typically twice a year on a store like this that has the proper hand washing and ware washing, with variances would be in 4 to 5 times in a year.
Sure.
So it's a more.
Yeah, so that's helpful, so if something's
that's
not
fine.
working, you get more help.
And
I think I've mentioned before that, please feel free to come in at any time you want. And nothing's perfect. I mean, you might come across something that should be done that's not being done. But, I mean, that's how things get corrected, and that's why it's important with the, Board of Health stopping in and seeing whether something has to be done that's not being done. And
when your people sing happy birthday, please have them sing it to John Jacob Jingleheimer Smith.
Okay, Megan, your recommendation?
I recommend we approve the variances requested with the following conditions: that there's no expansion of food service beyond the current operations, that there's no handling or preparation of ready-to-eat food on the premises, such as cutting fudge, or putting out food for trial, sampling,
Samples.
tasting, thank you. That there's employee supervision over the over the unwrapped jars at all times, that a full-time certified food manager is on staff, and that the health department has the right to revoke these variances at any time.
I just thought of some other quickie. I know that some of your candy is wrapped and other isn't. There probably should be some system of either baseball caps or hair nets for your staff,
yes.
so that there's not hair getting into the food either.
Okay, somebody want to make a recommendation?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? It's passed? Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much, folks.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Next, we have a discussion presentation from Laura Kelly from POCA, Cape Cod, request for Board of Health to write a letter to Eversource against vegetation management plan for 2018 through 2022.
Good evening. Hello.
Hi.
If you don't mind, I'm going to leave my vest on. It's drafty in here. Hi, I'm Laura Kelly. I actually reside in Northeast Tam. I was born and raised in Dennis. I wanted to request a letter be written by your board, sent to MDAR, the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources, concerning Eversource's vegetation management plan that will last for the next 5 years, that has the use of herbicides for a way to maintain vegetation in your town. 17 towns are on this list. And the last VMP, which happened to be the first VMP, Vegetation Management Plan, on Cape Cod, they used, I can give you the exact stats here really quickly, 2,065 gallons on Cape Cod's sandy soil in 2013. And in 2014, they used 2,103 gallons. What we're trying to do is educate that there are other methods to maintain vegetation that are potentially less harmful over time, considering we live above an aquifer. To show you quickly, have you guys received this in your email to me, from me? Yes? I'll go over really quickly. What you're looking at is depth to drinkable water. As you can see, it's nowhere over, well, it's about 10 feet, getting into 20 feet, a little bit into 40. It isn't until you get to Sandwich, you get to 60 feet. One of their regulations states that they are to not spray within 50 feet of a private well along the rights-of-way. These are the rights-of-ways are in pink. The yellow are just some public wells that are on the power lines. We believe that they created a regulation in order to protect our drinkable water, right? Within 50 feet of a private well is horizontal. They weren't even considering vertical. If it were, this is one of my dreams, to change the actual regulation to say vertical, just put in one word, it would change the whole ballgame. They wouldn't be able to use herbicides to maintain vegetations along our power lines anymore. Considering, you remember the mass clear cutting a few years ago where they went and they took down all the large trees to a 200-foot wide swath, 150 miles, in order to use herbicides because they cannot spray anything over 10 feet tall. So one year was the large, we call it clear cutting, and then the next year they could come back and spray. And they've sprayed for the last 5 years in a row, up to 10,000 gallons potentially above our sandy soil on our aquifer. Now with all the setbacks, I know you know about zone 1s and zone 2s and the public wells and the private wells and of course the bodies of water that are obviously showing there's so many setbacks. When you take all that out of the equation of the 150 miles of power lines, I want to say half. This is a proposed question for the Cape Cod Commission to figure out what that actually is. And then you say that's 10,000 gallons. It's really starting to, not be comfortable in my eyes. So right now is a comment period where MDAR wishes to receive from the public reasons why the VMP is not, I don't want to use the word healthy. They want us to show them harm, which really scratches my forehead because the whole point is to not be harmed. Harm in their eyes, they want to see specifically from a well. Eversource sprayed that day, and in that well it was contaminated directly. The other harm would be on a human. They spray, there was a drift, and somebody is maimed, harmed. These are impossible questions to answer. And this is where we're at. This is what they're waiting for when I say the point is to have all our departments set up to protect us. So we're going to do the best we can with the knowledge we have at that time, right? That's what all of us can do, is to say our drinkable water is 10 feet below us. There are other methods, whatever your words are. I'm here today just to ask for, and now I'm not talking about golf courses and homeowners. They use more cumulatively. this is the number one company using the most in a situation where it's unnecessary. I don't know every homeowner and every other business spraying. That's just a whole nother thing to chew. So really, I just want to focus on the one thing today for people that bring up, but what about blah, blah, blah. There's a preemption law in the state of Massachusetts. We cannot ban herbicides per town. The state will not allow this. The state of Maine, each town has an ordinance or a bylaw, and they can write, homeowners can use XYZ amount, businesses, blah, blah, whatever the wording is. We can't even go there. The best that we can do is work with the regulations, and the simple ask is a quick letter before the 30th of March to get to MDR, and if I could have a copy for my records by email. MDR wants them by snail mail, ironically enough. And the changes in the VMP I thought were interesting from the last set of regulations to this time around. There's 9 herbicides this time around. There were 5 before. And I don't understand the reason for that at this point. The research that I do on the new boar, it's hard because they're not forthcoming with what they combine together. They're not forthcoming with when they're going to spray which areas at what time. They get the regulation from September to December 31st for the 17 towns. You know, so there's a lot of gray areas. And so in a situation where we're given an opportunity, I think we all should just do the best we can to be as strong as we can, to do the best we can. So thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Yay!
I'm a public health person.
Please, yes. bring
I
it.
worked very frequently with MDR in my former life before I retired. So it's MDR that's over this, regulating this?
They oversee.
And do they work with the Department of Public Health on this, do you know? That might be a suggestion for you folks.
There's 15, I'm sorry, that's the Massachusetts Pesticide Advisory Board, which oversees MDR, which oversees Eversource. So we've been working with the Pesticide Board that meets 4 times a year.
Suggesting that might be a way for the future.
And there's,
And then the other
yeah.
thought is, and I know you have an immediate deadline, which is kind of unfortunate, it's next week, so I'm not negating that, that's a bigger discussion. But what about trying to educate the public here in the different towns? And for example, last month we invited, I'm the chairperson of the current discussion group for the newcomers on the Cape Cod for Harwich and Chatham, and we had Dr. Joanne Morimoto present on fresh water and the impact on drinking water and
Right.
seawater, and people really were wowed by her because she was able to demonstrate a lot of things about the water quality on the Cape.
Nice.
And our members who attended were very impressed by her because she was able to demonstrate towns on the Cape and that type of information, but kind of educating the public so that they then can advocate for themselves.
Perfect.
Or that maybe there'd be wider groups, not just newcomers, but maybe other committees in towns and that type of thing. So I don't mean to take away from your immediate request, but I think if you don't already have it, that if there's more on your website or just alerting
Sure.
people about your website and having people go on. I know I was, up until 2 years ago, I was on my backline of my property was on the, under the lines and all, and there were quite a few people in the neighborhood that were very concerned because that's where their gardens were. And so here they were, it wasn't almost even just the water or the chemicals on the person, but people who had children were eating the vegetables that
Right.
were in their garden. And so I think the more you, maybe you already do this, so I don't want to make any insults, but the more that you educate the average consumer, I think the more support that you'll get on these efforts, and it can build up over time, maybe not help you immediately for next week, but I think asking MDR to get the Department of Public Health, the Environmental Protection division of which Julian Senator Sear worked for them. He was their Director of Policy at the Department of Public Health. And I think that not only getting that department at the Department of Public Health, but somebody like Julian Sear or even Sarah Peak, I'm sure would be very interested in this. So it's kind of letting your campaign snowball to get policy people and the average consumer, I think would be very interested in this, because it impacts us all.
Perfect,
Yeah.
thank you.
So thank you for the presentation.
Just to let you know, I'm the president of POCA, CapeCod.org. So that's an organization created by concerned citizens called Protect Our Cape Cod Aquifer. I've been working with Sarah Peak on this for 7 years, and Dan Wolf and Julian, and written bills with them all. And we're going to just continue. It's been a 7-year to this point, and we do educate the public whenever given an opportunity. So if you know something, if something comes up, don't hesitate to shoot me.
Okay, good.
We have all sorts of maps and tables full of
Good.
information, like never use laundry detergent again, things like that, where we can really start realizing our own impact and lessening that
And
in a
maybe-
matter of minutes.
And maybe we can connect some of your resources. I don't think this is political, so I don't think and somebody can slap my hand if I am, but I think that we could put some of your resources on our web or some other web, so that the consumers are educating themselves, and so they need to take it on
Thank
like
you.
other policy issues.
Other towns do actually have my website on their town because their products
We
listed,
can
and
direct them
so
to your website if we can't
Thank
put
you.
them on our own.
appreciate it, Cynthia. Great comments.
Okay, there are two issues here. One is aquifer contamination, and the other one is overspray. Overspray is when you miss the target and somebody else gets the
Yeah.
herbicide.
Drift.
With regard to the first, aquifer contamination, there was a study done a couple of decades ago in which test wells were dug, and then glyphosate, which is the 80% of
Okay.
the herbicide used, was applied around the test well, and then the penetration of glyphosate was studied. And in that study, there was a penetration of less than an inch of glyphosate. And I was wondering if you had any contradictory studies.
Yeah. So I'm working really closely with Horsley and Witten. Are you familiar with them at all? Scientists, hydrologists, ecotoxicologists. So there's different firms and groups of people that I'm working with. On our sandy soil, there was, oh my gosh, the Massachusetts Soil Survey of Barnstable County, 1993. I know that's old, but you talked to something dated too, so I can bring this up. 22 inches an hour. If you took a gallon of water and actually just put it in the ground, how fast? Now this, of course, we have clay pockets.
We're talking about glyphosate, not water.
I know there's all sorts of different, right, exactly, doses they're called. And so you have to look at the chemical reaction of the soil. I'm not a soil scientist, but it's fascinating to work with these people that we do have there in writing. This cannot happen above an aquifer because of the equation of it's just a matter of time.
Can you cite a specific study as to how far glyphosate penetrates into the sand?
I cite it this second? No, but I can get that for you.
I would appreciate that,
I can
because I
get
think
that
that's
for
what pretty much the first part depends on, is proof that this stuff gets into the aquifer.
We don't have anything specific for Cape Cod. I do rely on other countries, laboratories, where they're working in situations of types of sand. So there's so many fine lines in this to get a specific. There's nobody testing that I know of. Silent Spring is our great laboratory here, but they have not gone to the power line to see, like, right after they sprayed what's going on. So we're in that in between right now.
I would suggest that for us to issue a letter that there's a risk to the aquifer, we better have some proof.
Yes, sure.
Help fund it.
Yeah,
Specifically, it protects them.
funding thing.
The other
It's a
thing is
lot of money.
overspray, and overspray is a big problem. The big pest on the Cape, as you probably know, is common ditchweed or Phragmites. And Phragmites can only be killed by putting glyphosate directly into the vascular system of the Phragmites. You have to cut it off and drip glyphosate into each stem in order to kill it. Now, there's not very much Phragmites in the power easement because it's a water plant, but nonetheless, it's very hard to kill some vegetation with glyphosate because it doesn't penetrate vegetation any better than it penetrates soil. That's why they have to have the other 4 or 5 different, for example, glyphosate won't kill poison ivy. I know, I've tried. And so you have to have a specific herbicide just for that. And the big problem, of course, is the tactical problem of trying to protect the surroundings while getting rid of, what is it, about 30 feet wide, the easement?
200.
200? Okay. You have to protect the boundaries, and anything that will go up into the air is likely to go across the boundary. So therefore, I would suggest that that's the major provable risk rather than the groundwater risk, period.
Yeah, that's called drift. There's a regulation that they cannot spray within 3 miles an hour and 10 miles an hour. But, you know, is that on the top or the bottom? I mean, it's there's so much. But to prove that the tree on the outside of that boundary is hurt, it's hard. It's just hard.
The last 2 weeks, you know, we have 50-mile-an-hour winds. I don't care how slow the spray is, it's going to drift.
Yeah, they weren't spraying.
That's the point that I would suggest we make, rather than the
Wind
than the
drift.
penetration point, because frankly, I don't think that's been proven.
Yeah, that's a good idea. It's valid. You know, it's up to you guys how you want to write it. Did you get a copy of the draft that was proposed?
Can I just, if you have a question?
Just a couple of comments.
Okay. Can you state your name?
Yeah, I'm Ed McManus.
Do you want him to come up?
Yeah, you'll come to the microphone, please.
And these comments are from myself personally, although I'll reference some interactions I've had as a public official with Barnstable County. I serve on the Assembly of Delegates, and one of the projects I've been have worked on over the 3 years there is the issues around the Fire Academy in Hyannis, and we're dealing with chemicals that are not yet considered toxic by EPA. They're considered chemicals of emerging concern because they really don't have any conclusive evidence exactly what they do, but they believe they do something. But nonetheless, because of those chemicals showing up in water supplies, the county is now in the process of a $3 million cleanup of it on essentially what were ostensibly legal chemicals. What we're dealing here with is a public utility. First off, it's a public utility. It's given a monopoly right in order to provide a public service of providing energy to folks, and they have been using a cocktail of chemicals to spray to keep down vegetation. They're, you know, on the one hand, they say, well, you haven't proved that glyphosate goes into the water. What they haven't also proved is the effects of the different mixtures and cocktails of chemicals that they spray, and those impacts and how those interact either. They have reams of studies of each chemical independently, but not in combination. And we know things in combination behave differently than those things alone. And I raised the issue of a public service, public utility. You know, they're there to serve the public. Well, the public on Cape Cod, in all 15 towns, at one time or another, have all taken a vote asking them not to do this in our towns, in through our over our aquifer and through our zone 2s and whatnot. And they absolutely have blown us off. They refused to meet with Senator Wolf and some of his fellow senators when they went to Eversource. And for you know, you can you know, there are a number of issues, scientific, which I think still need to be solved, and I would much rather have hard evidence proving the points, the assertions we make, but I would also expect them to have hard evidence proving their assertion that what they're doing is safe, and I don't think they have it. But I think for no other reason we should oppose them is because they have basically refused to play fairly in addressing this issue. And I would urge you to take a position and write a letter to MDAR opposing the vegetation management plan. There are a number of other ways that the vegetation can be managed. One of the issues I have, these are long swaths of land that cut through all of Cape Cod. They could serve as an area for some of our struggling farmers who have a lack of land to use as farmland, and by using it as farmland they would keep it clear of vegetation. But you can't even raise this question with Eversource. But anyway, those are comments.
Well, we could use our state agency because it's all taxpayer money. It's our state money that's paying for that, so that's interesting. And maybe we could just suggest that they fund a study to prove their point that it is safe. And so it's kind of like being proactive to ask them to come to substantiate the idea that it's safe.
And the thing is, it's not hard to do. You know, it doesn't cost a lot to dig a test well. And digging test wells in various parts of the, I don't know how many of you have actually hiked the easements, but they're all pretty much the same. They're all pure sand. And say take half a dozen of those, dig a test well, and then put your mixture on top and see what happens. It's not rocket science. It's easy to do, but nobody's done it. And that's why I'm reluctant to say that we should ban it, because we haven't found out whether it's really dangerous to the aquifer. If we can find that out, then let's by all means ban it.
Yes.
Is there a reason that the conversation is limited to the aquifer and not just the risk to human health? There are many, many studies on what these
Could you state your name, please?
Oh, Leora Amir.
Come to the microphone.
And I just wonder,
Could you come to the
are we
microphone?
limiting it only to the discussion of water? Yeah, because from my perspective, this is a much larger health question, which is what the impact of these chemicals are on human health across the board. There was an MIT study that I don't have reference to. I just saw it in the newspaper that it says by 2025, 50% of all children will have autism because of glyphosate, because of the way it's used in all our wheat. So I'm just asking why we are not also looking at the general health risk of these chemicals. Even if it doesn't permeate the soil, it blows onto my grass if I'm a neighbor, my child plays there. You know, the ramifications are just never ending here.
Can you give me a reference on that one?
I can't because I just saw it. If I find it, I'll send it to you.
Yes, please do,
Gladly.
because I don't believe it.
Well, I gathered that, and that's going to be a difference of opinion.
Well,
I don't think
it's
there's
not a matter
any-
of opinion, it's a matter of evidence.
Well, evidence in these areas is very hard because causality is difficult. The same way we struggle with causality of so many illnesses in our culture, there are chemicals we're using that we didn't have when we were growing up that people are exposed to today. So I'm just asking you to broaden the perspective beyond the aquifer.
And maybe you could email that lead to Megan
Yeah.
at the Board of Health, and then
Sure.
she can send it out to the committee.
Do you have a card or anything that has the email?
So in the hallway by the large window, there's a rack of cards, Megan will get your cards.
Okay.
And on the agenda, our health email is on top.
Okay, super. Yeah, I'll look for it. I just saw it referenced, and
Thank you.
so I just would like to expand the conversation beyond water.
And I don't want anybody to think that I'm in favor of spraying. I just need evidence that it's dangerous before I would be willing to sign a letter. That's all.
I'm just asking for us to take on the precautionary principle because we don't know. We're in that in-between where, you know, the manufacturers say it's fine and the people are having their own voice and doing their own research. And I will be glad to send studies your way. This is a draft letter. It's just a suggestion of how to word things. It doesn't tell you what to say at all. It's more of a formality, you know, date, name, et cetera, et cetera. You guys have to fill in your actual feelings on all this. So you could say, because you don't know for certain, we should err on the side of caution as opposed to, you know, test results are proving. You know, so it's up to you folks how you want to do all this, but I will, in the meantime, absolutely send you some studies that I've learned from.
And I would think that even if, and I don't know this because we have to discuss it as a group, but even if we don't, my thought is, this is just off the top of my head, if we don't say we're going to ban it, that we want them to ban it, do we have, I would like to suggest that we say that we have enough questions that we would like them to consider funding or acquire funding to study this.
Great.
So that then we can objectively, in the future, if it's safe, fine. If it isn't, we write a letter to ban it, so that basically we're coming out and openly saying we're concerned about this, but maybe we're not at the point where this committee can say, we want you to ban it, but we can say to them, we see this as your obligation as a state
Well, I think
agency.
that's something that we need to discuss as
Yeah.
a board.
Yeah.
So let me just
Okay.
clarify
I have
some.
one question. How many towns have sent letters?
Oh, many. That's a very good question. I'm going to say 9 right now, and I'm still collecting more. There's 17 plus Martha's Vineyard. So I'm really working with all the towns. To answer your question really quickly, this is a vegetation management plan that comes out once every 5 years. So you have till the 30th to, say your strongest, hardest, best possible words. And you can absolutely ask them to give you studies within the next year. Give a limit. Trust me, it'll be 10 years before you hear from them again. Whatever your words are, but it's just an opportunity. And I really suggest that, because we don't know the consequences to these actions, you are our boards of health. It is up to you guys to protect. And it's a chance. I would not wait for them to do tests because it's not mandated by the state for them to do testing. We're just, no offense, we're just the little Cape Cod people. They're the state relying on EPA standards. So the EPA allows these herbicides. We cannot ban anything. We can't even ask them to ban it. It's not possible in the state of Massachusetts because of the preemption law. So we're not talking about banning anything. You can't. It's going to get thrown away. That won't count. We can say we don't want to approve the VMP as it is written because of the word herbicide. They can maintain, nothing is taller than me anywhere on the 150 miles right now on rights of ways because it is the mass clear cutting and 10,000 gallons of herbicides. There is no threat to our electricity on the rights of ways right now. I can go out hand prune with my own loppers and my own clippers. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about, why use the heaviest artillery in our toolbox? It's just not necessary anymore. Even goats, I think, is a way. People talk about that. But goats also would eat the native vegetation ground cover. So we don't want that either. We want selective. This is a bad tree. This is one that's going to grow, and this one's going to grow. But not all of it. So we're to that point where we can do selective pruning is the number one way to maintain vegetations at this point. Because they've done all the hard work, it's easy now. But it is a way, we do need to keep up with it. Or it will, seeds are always going to happen, the wind is always going to happen. The trees will be back. So that's the easy answer to all of this. So I'm really hopeful this board will support my request in writing, even if it's just a paragraph. It's not about writing long, it's about writing strong. You're a Board of Health for this town, and as you can hear, residents don't want this happening. So if you need any other guidance from me, don't hesitate to
Thank you.
ask.
This is very informative.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Comment
Yes.
on the same subject?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, I'm Mark Farber, and my property is on Chatham Road, next to the Water Department, and adjacent to Thompson Field, and backs up to the Water Department property. I don't know if anybody here has a dog or walks Thompson Field.
Human.
Do you? Okay.
My property abuts that.
Okay, and so mine's on the eastern side. And then if you're on the bike trail, it parallels the easement for quite a long time. And so hundreds of people cross over this area every day. So if they're spraying, it affects hundreds of people and their dogs and the kids who are all walking through here and biking through here. So it might be a condition in Harwich where we have special concerns because people are using the easement and crossing the easement every day. And so, as I went out there last year when they clear cut it, I saw no problem with that, although I think Laura is saying it can be more selectively pruned rather than just clear cut. But at this point, I see no need to spray because everything's about this high. And if it is maintained that way, and whether it's done with volunteers or the power company, why not? Why use any chemicals? Especially in Harwich right now, and it goes right through the water department area. Which is, an area where it should not be sprayed, I would think. It's one place where, other than like a water resource, it is a water resource. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else?
I was going to say briefly, that is a great suggestion for your Board of Health to put up signs between September and December 31st saying this area will be sprayed if the VMP goes forward and we can't stop it, et cetera, et cetera. That's a great thing. We do that up in Eastham near Nauset School because the bike trail abuts the power lines and the kids run. They do track and stuff in this area, so we put signs out there. So it's a great idea. And they do have setbacks, 100 feet to public wells. Is that really protecting our drinking water when it's really the same lens is right there? So, thank you.
Thank you.
I look forward to working with you, and I hope that we can work on this together.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to close the hearing. So I did. Okay. Do you want to take a
It
vote?
wasn't a hearing, was it?
It's just a discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you be voting to write a letter at this point?
It's up to you. It's up to you.
I'm in favor of writing a letter, personally.
I would suggest that the letter be confined to the overspray issue rather than the aquifer issue. Because I think overspray is a lot easier to demonstrate than penetration.
I'd be in favor, and I'd like to have something to the effect of that we are suggesting that they study and we'll have evidence-based objective data that shows the harm or lack of harm on main people, whether it's on the vegetation that people are eating, or play areas, or water. And so we don't have to really get into the really, the topic that you're bringing up, that right now we don't have the evidence on the aquifer, even though it's implied. And if that would keep us from not sending a letter, then I would feel to hold off, but to make our point that we are concerned down here.
Yeah, it just seems like economics. It's a lot easier to spray it than it is to go trim all those shrubs and trees and everything like that. So, and there's an inherent risk if you where you make the good point. They're spraying basically right over the bike path.
Well, they're spraying over people's property, so they cut it all down. I don't know who spoke to that. Oh, you did. Everything was cut down in Harwich, and then they put the stuff down. So it wasn't even that they did one or the other, it was both. And so there's a lot of objection that way, that it's like overkill, so to speak.
So they don't have to go back and cut it.
Right, and they didn't do selective either. It was like everything. You wouldn't believe the,
But I'd rather have them cut it than spray it.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. By the way, most of the power line damage in these last 3 storms has been to the distribution lines, not the transmission lines.
Oh,
And the distribution lines are the ones that, some of them do have easements. Half a dozen of them around here do. But a lot of them are just on streets. And the loss of power comes when a tree runs down, cuts down one of the 7,500 volt lines on the top of the poles, and it wipes out a whole neighborhood. This problem is not going to be solved by making the easements prettier. The only way you're going to solve that problem is by very meticulous tree trimming. You see them out all the time, even between storms, because there are trees. Everybody can say that one's got to come down and that one, so on, because of they're tangled up with the power lines.
And I'm in agreement, so I think it's unanimous, so I think we should write a letter. Okay?
I'll draft
Support
one.
Laura Kelly's cause of
Yep.
curbing their use of pesticides.
and I don't think we should use her name. I think we should use the organization. That's much more powerful.
Yeah, POCA, what is POCA?
Okay, I'll draft something and get it out for review.
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Before the 30th.
We can,
Before the
yeah,
30th.
shoot it back to email, okay.
Yeah,
Good.
I'll send it out separately. You can
Thank you.
send it back.
Yep, thank you.
Suggestions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing the right thing.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. The next thing on the agenda is the report of the health director. I'll go over it briefly. There's the same amount of real estate inspection reports, Title V inspections, food inspections that we've had. They have not slowed down. Bigger projects we've had are the wastewater. I've been working diligently with the support committee as well as the town to get on board with the sewer regulations and our involvement. I had a request for information from the Board of Health, or a referral to us regarding Cuddy's Pit. I don't know if you are familiar with that. It's
Yeah.
where R.H. White, who is doing the gas line, is
Oh.
asking to use that sand pit as an area to stockpile material for National Grid Pipeline project. This was a month and a half ago, but because we didn't have a meeting last week, you weren't privy to that information. However, I did some research. Dr. Cushing had also done some research, and what they are proposing to do is stockpile material, but they will not be stockpiling asphalt millings or doing any milling there. They will have some material that will have some asphalt from the digging up of the roads. It may be mixed in with the sand, but they're going to be screening that at least every 2 months and taking the asphalt off the property.
Is this the place that's right off 39 where the sign is? And are they willing, as part of this deal, to do a cleanup when the when the project is not only to do the best job they can to clean as they go along, but that at the end of the project, that they're willing to do, willing to be inspected, let's say. So I'm just thinking, something like where they're inspected or the soil's tested, so that if there's any problem with, harmful material, that they're willing to pay for the cleanup.
Well, they are willing to have inspections.
Oh, good,
They've
okay.
offered us to come, we can go down at any time
Good.
to look at it. They don't own the property, and the town doesn't own the property either. It's privately owned. It's only coming before us for our opinion or your opinion because it's in the groundwater protection district.
But you'd hate to be like reactive. It's just that if you find that you want, in the inspection, that there needs to be more thorough cleaning, that they would agree to discuss it or do it.
And I hope that they
Never get there.
Right. Let's see, I did apply for a grant for a summer intern from the Department of Public Health. I haven't heard yet. I'm hoping we get someone. The grant is for an intern, a person, 1 to 2 days a week, and we could use them for our public health and wellness education promotions.
If you don't, I would suggest bringing to BU.
Okay.
They were always very good about graduates since they're Northeastern.
Okay.
They do it for free.
That's really great. Other things, we've been working on scanning information under the Acela platform. Slowly but surely we're getting there. I did have my deposition for 5C Street Extension. That was the project. 2015, it came before the Board of Health for variances. They did not have conservation approval at that time, so the board denied the application. They didn't even hear the application. You didn't even hear the application. It went through litigation. It came back. We took a different approach to how we opened the hearing, heard what the application was for, and then denied it for being incomplete. It's being, it's coming up again because the owners are suing the town, both Board of Health as well as Conservation, for a taking, illegal taking of the land. So it's in litigation still. Depositions were last week. I'm sure there will be impending.
Is this the case where it was a property, the owner died, and Speakman is the company involved?
No,
Okay.
no, different one. And also in your packet, there's this new product that I wanted to bring to your attention as well as the public at large. I learned about this at the Health Agent Coalition meeting. It's a e-cigarette. There's a picture of it in your packet. It looks like a flash drive.
Oh, yeah.
The Tobacco Control Program has requested and has been going to schools to educate the kids who are using this, as well as sending home information to parents who wouldn't even suspect that it's anything. They would think that it's just a flash drive for their kids' homework when it's a nicotine device. And the scary thing about these is the cartridge that you put in is equal to 200 cigarettes. So a lot of these kids are using this device in a day and going through these cartridges very, very quickly. And the amount of nicotine in each device is extremely alarming.
Did you see the Globe article on that about 2 weeks ago, like an expose, saying that they at one point thought this was going to be a great alternative to cigarettes, and now that's actually created a worse problem, and more kids are actually addicted to this than they were prior to.
Yes. They make them in different flavors and things like that, so they are popular with kids, but what's scary is it doesn't look like a cigarette. Parents, caregivers, they're not going to think anything of it and have that conversation with their kids when they need to be a little bit more educated on it.
Well, it doesn't, it's open at the end.
Well,
Flash drives aren't open at the end, so it shouldn't be hard to check.
Well, if you're not,
No.
if you're just looking
Yeah.
quickly, I
Yeah,
don't
you're
think
looking through
and the
your
whole
kid's
fact that
backpack.
there are studies that show if kids start smoking at, under a certain age, that they're more likely to start using drugs.
Right.
And so,
Yeah.
I mean, this was all in this article, which is very, I should have put it aside, I assumed everybody else read it, but it was very, very interesting. It wasn't a scientific journal, it was only the Globe, but it was very informative.
And then the last thing I wanted to bring up, which wasn't in your packet, is Fire Station 2 is it's on the ballot for town meeting in May to construct a new fire station.
137?
On 137, so it's in a zone 2, it's in a water recharge area, but it's also in the sewer, soon to be sewered. So it's another project that they're proposing to use the existing septic system, which consists of a tank and a leaching pit. So it's not totally cesspools or anything, but they're doubling the size of their fire
Capacity.
station. It's something that normally, if this sewer system wasn't happening within the next few years, it would come before you for an environmental impact review. I've recommended that they come before you for relief from having an environmental impact review and relief from
That makes sense.
putting in a new septic system
Right.
now, since they will be connecting within 2 years after being.
If they get voted in, if they get voted to expand, so we'll know in May. what
Well, should we vote on
citizens
that?
No,
Or
it wasn't on the agenda
Okay.
officially. I just wanted to make you aware that those were
Okay.
my recommendations, so
One time.
when
comes,
you will see it probably next month.
And I
so
wouldn't
keep
want to
that-
vote on it now, because I think that I don't remember, but the expected cost of that station,
6 million.
irregardless of the water issue at this point, it may not be something that passes, so why vote to give them relief before we even know that they're going to exist?
Well,
They
it
do
needs it.
already have a septic system, I presume, there. right?
They have a system now that they want to use.
Yeah, sure. So it's not going to change anything if we vote against it.
Well, I'm saying if it's not either expanded or it's voted that it should be closed, we're like jumping the gun.
Yeah, well, we can't do that to our firemen, you know?
Well,
I agree.
Okay.
You were also given a contact list with your contacts on it. It's updated for Katie down in the back here, for all of you who
Yeah,
don't know.
Katie.
Katie Tenalia is our new senior health agent.
Oh, very good. Welcome.
I
Welcome. And
hope we didn't scare you off tonight.
just review it for additions, deletions, accuracy, and let us
If
know.
you just do the favor of putting under the people of interest, their job titles, so that
Sure.
those of
By
us
the
who.
way, I have a new address.
Okay.
As of today, in fact.
All right. Well, you don't have to announce it on TV, so you can just email it to me.
Just us.
That doesn't
No.
get circulated, does it?
No, this is
No, I hope
personnel
not.
only. It does not get circulated.
We don't want eggs.
No,
Raw
no,
eggs on our
no need
window.
for everybody to know where you live. So no correspondence, and then the next thing is permit list. We have one new food permit on here, which is the Lanyard Bar and Grill.
Where is that?
It's the new old Lanto.
Oh, okay.
That I recommend approving pending an inspection. They have not had an inspection done yet. And then 2 new septic installers. One is just doing minor repairs, and the other is a full permit license, also pending passing of the exam. He's applied. He has not passed the exam yet. So,
Is the lanyard, the person that bought it, the person that owned the 400 there?
no. The new owner, the Lanyard Bar and Grill, are the family that owns Vieira.
Oh,
So staying in town. He's a
Okay,
local
I
guy.
talked to the staff over there, and there's almost no change in staff.
Yes, yeah, he said he was gonna keep the staff, keep the menus, price points the same, just update.
that's good, someone nice to have.
It's supposed to open
Business.
today, but I guess they're a little slow.
No, no issues, not with us. Just- I haven't been in yet.
So do you need a vote on this, or no?
Yes.
I make a motion that we accept the list of permits that are proposed here.
Oh, one question before, may I?
Mm-hmm.
Ought to be seconded first. I'll second it. And
Yeah, let's finish the vote first. I mean, can we do, or is it
Well, I thought a
about,
discussion comes before vote, doesn't it?
oh, about the permits? Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
There was a question about Noble House, remember? There was
Yes.
a septic problem or something with them. Has that been resolved?
It wasn't a septic problem, it was a ventilation problem with their hibachi grills. It has not been resolved. They are not up for renewal at this time. They've already renewed their license. With the storms, we haven't gotten back to.
That's right, there was a hole under the hibachi, right?
Yes, yes.
And they were just letting the stuff
The
drain
grease,
into
yes.
that.
So
That
why are we
sounds like a
approving them
septic
then?
problem.
They're not on here, are they?
Really?
No,
They're
yeah,
number
they're on
two.
there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, should we cross them off?
Um,
Otherwise, what we're
Yeah.
voting on is approving them, right?
yep. You can approve it pending
Change,
um,
recommended changes or something.
Inspection.
compliance with
Oh,
their
yeah, that's a good way to
open
put it.
order.
Yeah,
I will amend the motion then.
okay. I'll
Yes,
amend the
thank you for
motion.
that.
Good call, Doctor.
Yeah. So
Okay, now
I'll-
we need another motion.
So I'll make a motion that we accept the list with the caveat that the Noble House will be approved pending their compliance with the recommended changes.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Aye.
Unanimous? It's passed. Before we adjourn, I do want to, think the board should thank Jen for her hard work with all those files. That's an amazing accomplishment. Thank you.
And you work for two boards, don't you? Yeah.
And let's,
Ever get any sleep?
and let's welcome Katie officially.
welcome.
Thank you. It's a great team you're
Okay.
working with here.
Anybody want to make a recommendation to?
I'll make a recommendation, we adjourn.
Second.
And do you want this back? Did she give this to
Yes.
you?
I'll take that.
Yeah.
I think I have it electronically. but-
Thank you.